This is Ryan Cook from Moody Theological Seminary, and in this video I want to do two things. One, show you how to find references, and second, show you a resource that is going to be very helpful for this course in general and for assignments this week in particular. So first, how to find references. One of the assignments you have this week is going to ask you to find a New Testament passage which quotes the Old Testament in a promise fulfillment framework. Now, at this point in your seminary career, you likely know how to find when a New Testament passage is quoting the Old Testament, or to be able to look at an Old Testament passage and ask, is this quoted in the New Testament, and find out if that's the case. But just in case you want some additional tools to help with that, I want to show you a couple of them that exist. Of course, the most basic tool would be a really good reference Bible. A reference Bible is one that has cross-references, maybe at the bottom of the page or in the center column or on the outside column. A lot of study Bibles have that, like the ESV or the NIV study Bibles will have good cross-referencing systems. There are also a number of websites like the one I have pulled up here, blueletterbible.org, and you can go either way, from the Old Testament to the New Testament or from the New Testament to the Old Testament. Let me just show you real quickly how this works. So I put in Jeremiah 31:31, which is one of the passages that we're looking at this week. And you can choose your translation. Let's say we do the ESV. And you can search, okay? And it's going to pull up the text of the ESV. Here's Jeremiah 31:31 on the top. And of course, it's in the text, context of the chapter as a whole. But there's a tools feature here. And the tools, I'm just going to go ahead and click on this. It has a number of really helpful tools in here. One is, of course, it has the Hebrew text in general. You have your Strong's number. It's got the interlinear. So a lot of really, really helpful things. You can even put on your cantillation marks if you know how to pronounce Hebrew. Those are helpful. So that's the interlinear. There are other Bible translations. I just want to mention the commentaries tab here. There are commentaries in here. Some of them are good. They're in general dated. These are all commentaries in the public domain. I would encourage you to use more up-to-date commentaries like the library website will have. But then there is this tab called Cross-References. And this is based on a resource called the Treasury of Scripture Knowledge. And you can look at all the places where that passage is either alluded to or cited or paraphrased in the Old Testament or in the New Testament. So you can see a number of cross-references here, and then here's a number of them from the New Testament. And it gives you the passage, and of course you can click on that to go to the context of the passage as a whole. So that's one way of finding some cross-references in this really wonderful free tool. There's another one called openbible.info, and this website has a lot of just raw data from Scripture. And you can see some of their data experiments here. I would just say, as you look at this, don't use the AI-assisted Bible study stuff, sermon generator. No. But there is a cross-referencing tab here, and you can put in a verse like Jeremiah 31:31. You can click, and you can, again, put any passage in there you want to. Click Find Cross-References, and this is kind of a nice layout here where it just provides the full text, and you can take a look at cross-references there. So those are two of many, many hundreds of different cross-references resources that exist. These are two easy ones to use. Now, the library website has a resource that I want you to know about. If you go to library.moody.edu and you go to here, this is what comes up. You want to go to the Books Plus bar, and you want to click Search eBooks. And there's a source in here called the Commentary on the New Testament Use of the Old Testament. And that should bring it up. There it is. And this commentary on the New Testament use of the Old Testament is available online. And what this resource is, let me open up the resource first. So you're going to get to a page that looks like this. And then if you want to view it online, you have to click on one of these two sources here. So let's just go ahead and click on one of those, and it should come up. Okay, so here it is. And what you can do is, we have to accept the cookies. There we go. What you can do is you can read it online. You can download the book for a short period of time, or you can download a chapter of the book. Here's the table of contents. Basically what this is is this is a commentary that goes in order of the New Testament. So you can look, it's based on the New Testament. So if you're studying, let's say, Matthew 5, you can go to Matthew 5 and find all the places where it quotes the Old Testament. But it doesn't just cite the Old Testament, it actually gives you a more robust discussion of how that author thinks the New Testament writer is using the Old Testament. Let me just show you an example of this. If we click on Matthew, here's the chapter. You can see there's an introduction. It's written by Craig Blomberg. There's an introduction here on Matthew's use, and then it's going to go straight in order through Matthew. So Matthew 1:1 through 17. And it's going to start showing how it's quoted. Of course, there's the genealogy there. There's the relationship with, the David being at the center of that genealogy that it's going to talk about. Here's Matthew 1:18 to 25. You can see Old Testament citations in there. Of course, Isaiah 7:14, which is coming. And then there's some specific examples. So again, looking up Matthew 1:23, you can see, okay, it's quoting Isaiah 7:14. Here's the Old Testament context. Its use in Jewish sources in the intertestamental period, textual background to the New Testament, and then the hermeneutic employed. It's going to do that. This resource does that with every citation in the New Testament of the Old Testament. So now, you might not always agree with its analysis, but it is an incredibly helpful resource for dealing with issues of the New Testament use of the Old Testament. So do make use of it in your study, not just for this week's assignment, but for in this course in general.